Oh boy, here we go as we are loading in to game number 1 of our first semi-finals of the evening in Copa Hyperion number 16. And spawning in the bottom right hand corner of Lightshade LE, we have the Mexican Protoss player. He is blue, he is representing Team Alpha X. It is Pacomike. Shout out to Pacomike, he was actually in the chat earlier. Much love, always supporting us. And spawning in the top left hand corner of Jim, what? of Lightshade LE, we have the Mexican Zerg player, sometimes Protoss. He is of course red, representing Timbers Esports. It is JimRising. Jimena Arturo Duran Silencio himself. Oh boy, and we'll see how this plays out. Again, honestly, I'm concerned for Jim. I honestly can't remember the last time he beat a Protoss player. He struggles against Pacomike, he struggles against Shakti, aka Nano, but we'll see. Again, this is something that he is well aware of. He knows that he struggles in this matchup and should be working on it, right? Like, and I know that he has been adopting different styles as well. Been working on his Hydra Lurker Viper, been working on his Corruptors, his Viper control. So we'll see how he's able to shape up against Pacomike. Again, Pacomike is a terrifying opponent. He is the best Protoss player in all of Latin America. Was able to take that place, that mantle from players like Darkness, from Shakti, from Nano. And he is so goddamn good when it comes to Skytoss. He was playing Skytoss even before the Void Ray buff. He would like go into 2-base carrier play and nonsense like that. But you know, with these unorthodox builds, he would be able to take games and take series off of people like Cham. And that's such an impressive feat. And now we have him now in current meta where Skytoss is kind of what everyone is going for. And he's been able to embrace that and really just elevate his skill alongside everyone else, even more so. And unsurprising, we have a Stargate opening. Now, to be fair, we are on Lightshade, and because of that, the counterattack potential is there for JimRising. He can go for a timing, whether it's with Hydras, whether it's with Queens. He can go for something to try and end the game early, which I imagine is what he wants to do. I can't imagine he's going to embrace the late game and just kind of sit back and spore up and tech up and try and meet the Skytoss army head on. Like, it just doesn't work out for him. Oh boy, oh boy. Meanwhile, there's some nonsense going on. Everyone, exclamation mark, Funada Dastan in the chats. Ay. Wouldn't be surprised if he's been drinking today. Shaking my head, Dastan, shaking my head. But here we go. We do have that Stargate opening, of course. We do have an Oracle coming out first for Pacomike. Honestly, I'm a little bit surprised not going for the Void Ray. It does get scouted. Meanwhile, JimRising does get a nice round on one of the Adepts. Immediately does go down. Beautifully done by Jim. Here comes the Oracle, but again, because JimRising did dive in with his Overlord, he was able to scout it. He should be able to prepare. Yep, the Spore does finish up. He's got his Queens in position. This Oracle, it's going to be difficult to find damage, but of course he can always use that stasis. Oh boy, as he does dive in, I mean, there's a Spore there. He does attempt to throw down the stasis. Ooh, the Adept even comes in to help buffer a little bit to keep that Oracle alive, safe from the Queens. And the stasis does get, what is that, 2-3 workers and a Ling? Not bad. Definitely could have been worse. Could have been better as well. Jim, he was sending a drone over to try and trigger it early, but honestly, nicely done there by Pacomike, able to get some damage done with his Oracle, keeps it alive as well, doesn't take any hull damage whatsoever. Meanwhile, Jim is going for a very fast lair. Interesting. He doesn't have a Roach Warren. He does have an Evo Chamber, so this kind of tells me he wants to go into Hydras. He could go into Mutas, I guess. Now, there we go. We got +1 range on the way. I imagine he's going to go straight to Hydras. Meanwhile, no reaction. Okay, he does pull the boys. Stasis goes off, but only one drone does get stasis. Meanwhile, a Roachborn actually goes down and gets thrown down. Interesting. I'm really curious to see what the purpose of this lair is. Because there is a Roachborn, I mean, it could just be for fast roach speed, or it could be for something else entirely. Maybe some Nidus play, like there is some dead space in the main base. Maybe some Spire play. Something that he used to do a couple of months ago is Jim would go into a fast Spire, go straight into Mutas, force his opponent to make Phoenixes, and then switch into Hydras. It honestly worked for a little bit. He was able to like keep his Protoss opponent off balance, but it can be a little bit difficult to pull off, and as we see, it is an Aspire play. He is going for the Hydra Den. I'm a little bit disappointed. But it is a little bit more standard. It does make more sense. You can go into Hydras, you can go into Lurkers to go up against the ground army, and you can eventually get into your Hive. So yeah, JimRising, thinking ahead. Meanwhile, the Oracle, still alive, does dive in. Has he actually spotted the lair? He has spotted the lair. Hasn't spotted the tech quite yet, but spoke too soon. He does dive into the natural. He does see the Hydra Den in the natural base. He is fully aware that, okay, like there isn't any weird like queen push coming or anything like that. Meanwhile, there was a little bit of a run by, unable to find any damage whatsoever, as there were Zealots ready and waiting, as well as a shield battery. Oh my god, this is this Void Ray a little bit ambitious. There are queens here in position, so the Void Ray isn't going to be able to get the base. And ooh, Pacomike, he's actually going into Storm. Does lose the Void Ray in the end, but of course we have seen Disruptor play be a little bit more popular in recent time, where you go into Disruptors and then into Sky Toss, but instead Pacomike kind of going for that Zest style, still going for Charge. I believe, yep, Charge is done, +1 is done, straight into High Templar. A little bit more old school, but again, it still works. Nicely done. JimRising does avoid the stasis for the most part. Again, only one. Oh my god, he dives back in. Oh, Jim, please. Ay. 3 more drones do get caught in the stasis. Again, drones aren't dying, but there's a lot of lost mining time here, and it does add up over time. And meanwhile, Jim, he's doing Zerg things, right? He's going to Lurkers, should be throwing down an Infestation Pit pretty soon, so he can go into Hive. He's getting his 4th base up and running. Economically, he's looking pretty good, and Pacomike has been relatively passive, but that's what Protoss wants to do. We do see like a full wall here at the 3rd base. Like Protoss, he wants to get into his Sky Toss. He wants to throw down 2 more Stargates and a Fleet Beacon. I'm honestly surprised that Pacomike is pushing out with what he has right now. Maybe he's hoping that JimRising is being a little bit too greedy and neglecting his army, and honestly he kind of is. This army could very easily fall to a couple of good play Storms. One Storm does go down, but we do see a pre-split, and there's not that much buffer here for Pacomike. He has to be careful with his High Templar. More Storms do go down, and he does cover his retreat. Oh boy, thankfully Pacomike doesn't overextend. I was really concerned if he committed to an attack. He is still a little bit exposed here. Like, he needs to go back home, mate. There we go. He needs to back off. At the same time, we got some Dropper Lords being morphed in here to the south. They don't get spotted by the Zealots, so maybe JimRising looking to morph in a couple of Lurkers and pull a Ryu and just dive straight into the main base. And honestly, this could work. It's it's so funny to see this. Like, both players are missing each other right now. Bit unfortunate by Pacomike. He's unable to see this. Meanwhile, JimRising is sending his Hydras, and yo, Pacomike actually spots the Hydras. The Hydras kind of give away his position. Oh boy, but the two ships, they do pass each other in the night. The Zealots, they look like they want to go into the natural base, get whatever damage they can. Meanwhile, the main ground army is pushing in through the north, but there are Lurkers in position to keep him at bay. And Pacomike, he's not dealing that much economic damage, but he forces all the Hydras to go back home. These are Hydras that wanted to get into these Dropper Lords, that wanted to counterattack across the map and get into the main base. So nicely done there by Pacomike, able to slow down JimRising. At the same time, again, the ground, I don't really agree with this. Like, Pacomike, he's just trying to make something happen with this, but the army is so vulnerable. Oh my god. Calm down, man. War Prism does get picked off. That means JimRising doesn't have to worry about it whatsoever. Immediately he sends his Hydras towards his drop lords. He wants to get that drop across the map. And Pacomike, he's making two... Oh my god, he's making 2 Immortals at a time. He has double robo production. Finally, we see the Fleet Beacon and the Stargate, but it feels a little bit too late. And now the drop is headed into the main, and there's nothing to spot this. This could be devastating. To be fair, there is a recall available, so if Pacomike needs to, he can recall into the main base, but that could prompt JimRising to move his main army and hit one of these fringe bases. Here we go, the drop lords do get in. Thankfully for Pacomike, there are no lurkers here, otherwise it would be a little bit difficult to clean up. Recall does get used. We got plenty of charge lots here to help clean up. Some of these charges are not a part of the fight though, and they are going to be cleaned up. Oh god, meanwhile the main armies are clashing. High Templar did go down. Nice lurker volleys went off for JimRising, and the Hydras haven't been dealt with. Paco, please! Oh my god! Pacomike just not taking this seriously whatsoever, and he's losing more than he really should have. Finally, this will get cleaned up, but nothing shoots up, so the Dropper Lords will be able to escape. And this is scary because the High Templar are here in the main base. They're not at the third. Okay, never mind. Okay, phew. There are 2 at the third base. Thankfully, Pacomike did split up his High Templar. Actually, he's got his High Templar all over the place. Nicely done. And you know what? There are no lurkers here. He does push on forward. 1 lurker does morph in just in time, but there is detection immediately. He does go down. Oh, this is scary. There are a lot of vulnerable Immortals here, and 2 Immortals do go down. Again, there's barely any army to support, and it's such an expensive loss here for Pacomike. Meanwhile, speaking of expensive losses, all of the lurkers are so exposed, but there's no detection. What? Oh, Paco, please! No! Oh my god, everything goes down! Aye, aye, aye. At the same time, Hydras jump into the natural. The lurkers push on forward. The detection of Pacomike goes down, and GG gets called. Not like this. Paco, please. Aye, aye, aye. He sent his main army headfirst into lurkers without detection. He's crazy. Oh god. Meanwhile, for sure is in the chat. Did you know JimRising streamed himself sleeping? He did. JimRising actually had a 72-hour stream last week. He wasn't awake for all of it. He did sleep on stream, and there are a couple of funny clips out there floating around Twitter. So yeah, I highly recommend checking them out. JimRising, he's a madman. He's done a lot. He's done a lot for his stream. He's sacrificed a lot, whether it's his hair, his dignity, whatever he has. Oh boy, but he's a great guy. He's a great guy. He's a lot of fun. Meanwhile, welcome ET Pwn home to the chat. Oh my god, it's been so long since we've seen you. Wow, yeah. I don't think we've even seen you in NA Apprentice. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're enjoying this off season, and I hope to see more of you. It's been a while since I did see you streaming earlier, I think last week. Considering rating you, but yeah, I haven't seen you compete in a while. I hope everything's okay. I hope everything's okay. Hope I don't know. Hope you're still motivated to compete, still passionate about the game. And yeah, I'm looking forward to see you play again. Whether it's the DreamHack qualifiers or NA Apprentice Code A or NA Contender or whatever it decides to be. Too bad he doesn't sleep naked. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Jim got an OnlyFans eventually. Like, let's be real here. He would do it. He would do it. Oh boy. Meanwhile, thank you so much, JPP1 question mark for the Twitch Prime. Gracias. Weird, there's no alert for that. There should be, but There we go. There we go. Enjoy your fanfare. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, for helping out the stream. Really appreciate it. Hope you enjoy your ducks, your emotes in the chat, as well as your replay packs. For those wondering, if you do subscribe to the channel, you gain access to the replay packs of the majority of the tournaments that we cast here on this channel. We have plenty of them, like Copa Hyperion, Sentimiento Latino, Battle of the Americas, Grand Platypus Open, Demi-C Weekly, and anything in between. So yeah, if you want some replay packs from pro players from the Latin American or the Oceanic or the North American region, then consider subscribing. We also have a Patreon if you want to go that step further. We have a Patreon page set up to help grow our tournaments. Ideally, you know, our current goal is to cover our current costs to run our tournaments, and then after that is to grow the tournaments to have a larger prize pool, to help pay out like semis and maybe have a monthly finals, and then eventually to help pay admins and casters. So yeah, it's something that we've been working on, and hopefully we're able to grow and sustain. But yeah, if you're interested, then there is that available as well. "72 hours, that sounds horrific. I can barely make it 4 hours before I'm wrecked." I mean, again, Jim did sleep on stream, so it's not like he was awake the entire time. But yeah, Jim, he's done a lot. He's had those 72-hour streams. He has shaved his head on stream. He has cross-dressed on stream as JimRising. He's a character. But again, he's a lot of fun. He's a good guy, and he's actually amazing at StarCraft. Like, he's such a good player. As we see, he's already up 1-0 in this series, something I didn't think that I would be saying. But again, Pacomike, he was doing Pacomike things. Ay, ay, ay. De nada. Gracias, JP, gracias. Yeah, just a spot of burnout, but been getting back into it recently, slowly. Nice. It's good to see you back, ET. It's good to see you back. One of the best names out there in North American StarCraft. ET Home, one of the best Zergs out there. It's a bit of a shame, like, we don't have that much Zerg representation in North America anymore. Obviously, the biggest name was Silky, but if you follow social media, Silky, the American Zerg player, recently said that he was stepping away from StarCraft. Which is such a shame because he's so good. Silky is such a good player, such a strong Zerg player. Again, he was regularly competing in DreamHack NA, so the regional DreamHack for his region, and he's such a good player. But yeah, he is stepping away. It's a bit of a shame. Hopefully not for long. Hopefully he comes back to us. Oh. Oh boy, as we are getting ready for game number 2. So far, I'm just quickly checking the bracket. Exclamation mark me in the chat, by the way, if you want to have a look at that bracket yourself. Ryu versus Chaos Fate is still going on. Honestly, I'm surprised. Like, their series has been going on for quite some time. Is, of course, an intense TVZ. In the past, Chaos Fate has been able to take down Ryu, but yeah, they can go back and forth. Meanwhile, again, thank you everyone for sticking around from Pig's raid. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's one of those things where we already have like a pretty tight-knit viewer base and community when it comes to our events, but it's really cool to see some support from people like Pig, or M. Canning has raided us in the past, Vindicta. We really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I hope you're enjoying the stream so far. I hope you're being exposed to maybe a community or an area of StarCraft that you're not too familiar with, and I hope you enjoy it, right? Like, Latin American StarCraft is always a lot of fun. Like, we've grown to love it so much. Like, we're fans here on the CranKy Ducklings of a lot of these players. We're fans of Pacomike. We're fans of Chaos Fate, Ryu, Eggs, the Zerg Lord, JimRising. Like, how can you not like these guys? Cham, of course, is a massive fan favorite here. As I'm just updating the casters at the moment. Darking, of course, unfortunately he's not going to be joining us today, but I'll try and get someone else on. I'll definitely try after this series, but until then, here we go. We are diving into game number 2, where JimRising is leading the series 1-0. I honestly, yeah, pretty impressive, right? Like, he's working on an uphill battle right now. You know, JimRising is fighting against Protoss, and it's not easy. It's not easy as a Zerg these days, but he's doing it. Or is Pacomike allowing him to do it? And Pacomike, took him a long time to get that fleet beacon up and running, just saying. An uncomfortable amount of time. Unreasonable. God damn it, Paco. God damn it. But here we go. We are spawning in on Pillars of Gold, LE. Game number 2 of this best of 3 semifinals. In the top right hand corner, we have the Mexican Protoss player, the blue Protoss, the best Protoss in all of Latino America. Representing Alpha X, it is Pacomike. And spawning in the bottom left hand corner of Pillars of Gold LE, we have the Mexican Zerg player. He is red, representing Timbers Esports. Up 1-0. Mate, who'd have thought? He's doing it right now. He's doing it against the Protoss somehow, some way. Can he close it out? 2-0. We shall find out. It is JimRising. Oh boy. We'll see. So far, nothing too cheeky. JimRising going for a pretty standard, you know, hatch gas pool opening. What we would expect from a more, again, just a standard opening, right? What else is there to say? Meanwhile, Pacomike, likewise, nothing cheeky. There's no proxy out on the map. And to be fair, that isn't really the kind of player that Pacomike is. He's not really one to cheese. We sometimes give Pacomike a hard time here, but we love him. Sometimes he can make some odd decisions. Just saying. I was able to cast Pacomike last week with Dastan, and we saw Pacomike like proxy, 4 gates, Ryu. And to be fair, Pacomike won. He actually committed with Blink. And he was able to pull it off, but again, like, it was very shaky. And it was on a knife's edge for the longest time. So Pacomike just playing things out a little bit more standard, and we'll see how standard, right? Like, again, the kind of openers, the kind of Protoss that Jim struggles against is double Stargate Void Ray, right? Double Stargate Void Ray into disruptors, specifically because that can be so defensive and you can very easily get up to 3 bases. We'll see what Pacomike opts to go for, especially because he doesn't necessarily have to go for Stargate. We have seen him go like Stargate opener into Twilight Council, into Glaive Adepts, or into +1 Blink Stalkers. He does tend to go for his gateway compositions from time to time, and I feel like JimRising is a little bit more comfortable against that. Like, he does a little bit better against that sort of stuff, so that's kind of ideal for him. Pacomike doesn't necessarily abuse Protoss as much as he could. Which, you know, is also part of his charm. For those wondering, Pacomike, his first name, it's not Paco, it's not Mike. God damn it. There's Francesco, of course, Francis, in English, I guess. It makes no goddamn sense. 2 first names and none of them is his. Shaking my head. But we do have the Void Ray opening here coming out from Pacomike. I love this, especially compared to game number 1, where he did go for an Oracle first, and we all saw the Oracle didn't deal too much damage in the beginning. Eventually, he did get some value with his Oracle, with his scouting, with his stasis wards, but it really wasn't worth going first with it. As we see, the Void Ray does come out. Ooh, he kills the Overlord, and actually, he cancels his unit. Okay, there we go. He is making an Oracle. I thought there was maybe some kind of shenanigans going on, but no. He is still committing to Stargate play. Coming out with an Oracle next, and JimRising isn't necessarily aware of that. To be fair, this opener has been getting a little bit more popular in recent time, especially after I Am Katowice. Double Void Ray just hasn't been anywhere near as prominent, unfortunately, but fortunately for JimRising, right? So he should be ready for this. We see the spores being thrown down, we see plenty of queens out so far. It's going to be really difficult for these Void Rays and this Oracle to really find too much damage. Oh, he's going to get the gas, is he? There is not enough energy for transfuse, so the gas will go down, but will the Void Ray escape? Just barely manages to escape with his life. Nicely done there by Pacomike. He does delay that gas, does kill it. At the same time, the Oracle does dive into the third base, does just barely get 2 workers. Ooh, almost intercepted by the Queen, but does manage to escape. Was that worth it? I don't know. It's hard to say. He took a lot of damage just barely escaping with that Oracle. We'll see if he's able to dive in later on and maybe throw down a stasis or scouts on tech. Meanwhile, things are slowly ramping up for JimRising once again and getting his lair as well as his Evo chamber. Last time the Evo chamber was for +1 range. The lair, of course, was for his Hydrogen after his initial Roach one, but ooh, switching things up on us. No +1 range, we got a +1 melee and a Baneling Nest. This screams, absolutely screams, Spire play, but it doesn't necessarily have to be, now that I think about it. We have seen players try and go for like these Ling Bane busts in the past, but we'll see. We'll keep an eye on things. This should be Spire. The lair is about to finish up. We do see, ooh, actually, +1 range on the way. Yeah, and there's the Hydrogen. Okay, I dig it. I'm a little bit sad. I'm a little bit disappointed. Long gone are the days of JimRising being known as the Muta King. That's what he was known for. He still does it in ZvZ, but we haven't seen him in ZvZ in a long time because he plays Protoss in against Zerg now. It's a bit of a shame. It's been so long since I've seen JimRising really utilize his mutas to great effect. He does it against Terran, I guess, but there's not that many Terrans. Boy, the Oracle does get taken out. He was able to throw down the Revelation before he went down. Unfortunately, the Hydrogen hasn't been scouted by Pacomike, so he isn't fully aware if his opponent is committing to Spire play or to Hydralisks. Regardless, Pacomike, you know, his army should be perfectly fine against this. He has Storm on the way, he's got plenty of High Templar. I believe he has Charge and +1, just like game number 1, going for the same kind of composition. The real thing is he going to commit heavily into Robo production, just like he did in game number 1? He made, what, like 5 or 6 Immortals? Archons. It took him a long time to get into Skytoss. Too long, to be honest, at least in my opinion. But we'll see. We'll see if he transitions into it a little bit faster. We'll see if he stays on a ground army a little bit longer, just like in the previous game. Once again, he is looking to push out. Thankfully, JimRising did spot it with the Morphing Baneling, so he's well aware of where the army is. When it comes to his own army, though, JimRising honestly doesn't have that much. He's got some Ling Bane, he's got a handful of Hydras, but we do have 26 Lings on the way, so they will be able to pop out just in time for the main army. And with this, JimRising should be able to push Pacomike back. Pacomike, he is pushing on forward into creep. He is clearing out a lot of creep, to be fair, but he can't overstay his welcome. We do see JimRising just pushing on forward, trying to focus down one of the High Templar, and he does get it. Aye, just like that. 1 of 4 do go down. Pacomike though, he actually shows up with a War Prism looking to reinforce this army. I don't know if that's the right call. Again, JimRising is getting ready for a surround. Oh no, and he's diving in! No, Pacomike, please! The Ling Bane does connect with the Zealots. Oh, they're the High Templar! They do go down to the Banelings! Oh no, and everything is going down. JimRising just crashes into this army, takes it all out. The only thing surviving are 2 Immortals. And what is there here at the third base? If JimRising wanted to, he probably could just keep pushing on forward, but there is a Zealot run by in the natural of JimRising, taking his attention, pulling his entire army back home. Ay, ay, ay. That was the worst possible situation for Pacomike. Like, he got surrounded, he wasn't ready for it. I don't believe a single storm went down either. Oh my god, and I don't know what it is about Pacomike, but he's still committing to this ground army. Like, we got more Immortals on the way, we got +2 on the way. Sorry, +3 even. Ay, ay, ay. And after that, JimRising is going to be feeling so good right now. Like, the army was absolutely crushed. The Protoss army was absolutely crushed, and now JimRising, he could just move on forward. To be fair, you still have to respect Storm. Like, there's a lot of Storms with this army. But that is why we have Lurkers on the way. To be fair, he's a little bit late when it comes to the Lurker tech and the Hive. So I don't know if he can accomplish too much with this army. But if Pacomike isn't paying attention, if he doesn't land the Storms again, like, this is going to be disastrous for him. Oh boy. Here we go. The Protoss army does dive into the third base. He was able to elude a lot of the scouting of Pacomike, so his army is completely out of position. Oh my god, the third is going to go down. It's completely exposed. The Banelings connect with all the entire mineral line. The Nexus does go down. And Pacomike finally shows up, but it's too late. The Nexus is dead. I am sure he's got plenty of High Templar, he's got plenty of Storm, but it doesn't even matter. JimRising, he takes out the base, he just rotates around and goes back home. And sure, there was this Zealot run by, but the Zealot run by, what does it achieve? It doesn't get a base, it gets cleaned up, and the War Prism even gets sniped. Oh god. Pacomike, sometimes Pacomike shows up and he's on fire and he's looking so good. But today, he's just committing to this style of Protoss, where he's going for these Immortals, these Archons, these High Templar. It's taking him so long to get into Skytoss, and maybe this is something that he's working on, maybe this is something that he's practicing, but right now, he's just not on it. He's just missing the army, he's just not paying attention when he needs to be, and things are just not going his way. He has very limited scouting information as well, so he has no idea like where JimRising will hit next. Every single time JimRising hits a base, like, Pacomike just has no idea that it's coming, and he just reacts so late because of it. And now JimRising, he's got an impeccable creep spread. It's already more than halfway across the map. He's got Hive, he's working on his Lurker upgrades. Speaking of, he's working on his Lurkers as well. The only thing missing for Jim is Vipers. Once he gets Vipers, he can just dive in, he can Blinding Cloud, he can yoink, he can do whatever he wants. Okay, nice, small win there by Pacomike. A bunch of Banelings were kind of move commanded, trying to get into the third base. Pacomike does clean them up, but yo, he's pushing into creep. I don't know if this is the right move. Oh my god, one High Templar does go down, a bunch of shields go down to the Banelings as well. But there are still plenty of Storms at the same time. We got a Ling run by here at the third base. We had a little bit of a Baneling drop in the natural, but it looks like Pacomike is able to push away the army. But slowly but surely, the Lurkers are getting closer and closer to that third base, to those High Templar. Yo, he's diving in. Okay, he does get pushed away by the carriers. The cannons doing so well here, providing some detection for the army, so it's a little bit risky for the Lurkers to really dive in. Oh god, but he wants to so bad. The Lurkers do burrow. They actually connect with the High Templar, and there's only one High Templar left, and there's no energy for Storm. If JimRising realizes he could press his advantage, he could keep on pushing on forward, but he does pull back. To be fair, it makes sense. JimRising, his army was slowly chipped away at over time, and he didn't really have too much supply to work with, but he's just trading so well But wow, the High Templar do come in and combine with the army of Pacomike here on the right-hand side. He's still got plenty of energy, Jesus Christ. They were actually over at the third base, it seems. So Pacomike, he's still in this. And slowly but surely, he is closing the gap in terms of supply. We have carriers on the way, and Pacomike is not as far behind as he once was. Oh my god, Pacomike even splitting up his army, counterattacking here on the right-hand side. The storms, they land beautifully on the Hydras. Ay, ay, ay. And Pacomike, his attention is here on the left-hand side. Pacomike takes the initiative. He moves on forward here on the right. He is able to take out one of these hatcheries. Could probably keep on going to get another. Of course, he does have recall available to him just in case. And oh my god, I was not expecting this, but the Zealots actually killed the hatchery. And with this Jim, he is desperately trying to get to the bottom right-hand side of the map, but he is too late. The hatchery will go down, and the High Templar are ready and waiting to storm the army as soon as it goes up the ramp. And there it is. We do see the recall being used. Oh my god, these Lurkers are trying to counterattack. Actually getting some juicy connections on those High Templar. I don't believe there's detection with this. Oh no, there it is. So yeah, JimRising, he is forced back, and as a result, JimRising lost 3 bases. 3 bases and 15 drones. So just like that, Pacomike was able to bring himself back into this. He is still behind in terms of supply, but he was able to deal a lot of damage to Jim. Oh my god, but it's happening again. JimRising is pushing out, and Pacomike, he has no idea. He already used recall. His army is all the way here on the left-hand side of the map, so the Nexus does get cancelled. This is getting a little bit scary. Pacomike needs another base. He is slowly running out here. Like, this base is so important for Pacomike, but eventually over time he will run out of resources, and he needs them so desperately, especially if he's going into carriers. JimRising even sneaking a base here to the top left, taking one of Pacomike's. Oh god. And even though JimRising may be struggling a little bit, like, as long as he's able to contain Pacomike to 4 bases, I think he's okay. Like, he's got plenty of resources to work with. Here we go, the Vipers are coming in. Where are the yoinks? Well, one yoink on the carry does immediately get focused down. We do have enough energy for another abduct. He does have to be careful with the feedbacks. Oh my god, no feedbacks. Storms instead, but another carrier does fall. Only 3 remaining. Well, and I was wondering where the rest of the High Templar were. There they are. He actually does send the rest of his army across the map to focus down the hatchery. The hatchery does fall due to the sheer amount of immortals with this. Beautiful storms land as well, but this army is forfeit. Like, Pacomike, he's just trying to trade as best he can. And in the end, everything gets cleaned up, and I don't know if that was worth it. What was that? 6 immortals? 4 High Templar? For a base and 7 drones? I don't know about that one, mate. I mean, to be fair, when it comes to bases, Jim is running out. Like, he still hasn't reclaimed this space here to the center left. And these bases here to the right aren't being saturated at all. So JimRising is struggling a little bit in terms of the economy, but he's well aware of that. And I love this. He's actually mining from the top left. Like, this is so important just because this is an incredibly risky base to be taking, so mine whatever you can from it while you can, right? Like, and even if it goes down later on, it's fine. You can later on, you know, resaturate these bases to the bottom right, which are a lot more safer, a lot more easily defended. Oh boy, meanwhile, just Pacomike is relentless with these run-bys, unable to take out a base, but the main army does push towards the bottom right. Hatchery does go down. He could get a second hatchery. JimRising just completely out of position. His entire army was distracted by those zealots, and it allows Pacomike to keep taking out these bases. But the most important base for JimRising is still here to the top left, and Pacomike, he has still not scouted it. And I'm a little bit concerned that he may never scout it. Oh god, meanwhile we do have a couple of yoinks. 2 carries immediately get focused down. Nicely done by JimRising. He has a beautiful corrupt account with these Vipers, looking to get another yoink off. Where are the feedbacks? Oh. Observer sniped. Interesting. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but yeah, it does get the observer. Meanwhile, was this spotted? Pacomike still hasn't seen the top left. Oh god, he's gonna be kicking himself after he sees the replay of this. Feels bad, man. Meanwhile, the lurkers and the hydras are pushing into the third base of Pacomike. Storms do land, but both High Templar do get sniped. Meanwhile, the corruptors are diving in. Yoinks do go off, and 2 carriers do go down at the cost of one of the Vipers. But in the end, it's kind of worth it. You know, he keeps 1 Viper alive as long as he remakes them. I'm a little bit concerned because JimRising, he only has 2 Vipers. He hasn't made any additional ones, and he's maxed out. He's relying on 2 Vipers with this, which isn't necessarily ideal. Oh my god, and the Zealots, they just keep getting more and more damage done. JimRising, get some goddamn sack defense. Get some spines up. Oh my god. Like, Jim, he still hasn't retaken the space, by the way. Oh my god. He isn't in the worst position. Again, he's mining quite well, but mate, you got plenty of minerals. Throw down some spines. Protect your bases from these run-bys. Pacomike has been doing such a good job at taking out these hatcheries, and I don't know how this is not the best call for JimRising. A lot of dead lurkers and hydras kind of for free there. I don't know what the plan was. Maybe he just wanted to trade some army. I guess he kind of can. He has a bank to spare. It does take an Archon shot though. This is like, JimRising isn't trading as well as he should be, or as he could be, I should say. And he can't necessarily afford this. We have another Zealot run by headed towards this left-hand base. The lurkers are going to be going down because there's actually detection with this run by. I love this from Pacomike, so he's actually getting some damage done. At the same time, Pacomike always with those multi-prongs. We got some Zealots headed towards the center left. We got the main army headed towards the bottom right. There's actually nothing here to kill because he's already killed the hatchery so many times, but he's getting whatever damage he can. At the same time, there is a deadly force of corruptors, but again, as long as the Archons are in position to buffer or to intercept them before they get to the carriers, like, Pacomike is fine. Oh my god. And 25 drones go down. Again, that Archon and those Zealots dealt so much damage. Finally, Pacomike is able to establish a 5th base here over on the right-hand side, but he still doesn't see the top left. If he like, all he has to do is send like a handful of Zealots and he deals with this. And if this base falls, that's it for Jim. Like, Jim is struggling to mine right now. Like, this is the heart of Jim's economy. If this falls, that's it. Oh my god, you know what? He's listening to the stream. Jim heard me talk about the stack defense. Spines are finally going up for Jim. But is it too late? Another massive Zealot run by. It does get spotted by Jim. He is going to intercept. At the same time, ooh, the carriers do get caught by the corruptors, but actually none of the carriers fall. And Pacomike's so bold, actually expanding aggressively in the face of Jim. My god. And Pacomike, he finally sees it. Oh my god. But there's actually sack defense here to slow down the Zealots. But Zealots, they're pretty good units. They are slowly chipping away at all of these spines. Meanwhile, Jim is actually taking another base here to the top left, and we're getting a pseudo base trade as the corruptors, they just go across the map. They're actually using their caustic spray to focus down this nexus, and they're gonna get it. Or are they? The Archons are here. The Nexus does go down, and Archons, they are so slow to maneuver between the bases, so the corruptors do try. They attempt to go into the main. At the same time, the Hydras are hitting the natural, and Pacomike actually turns around and comes back home. I thought we were going to end up in a base trade. This makes sense. I don't think Pacomike needs to risk it. I think it's more on JimRising to make this happen, and Pacomike, he comes back home, and he's going to be able to clean this up. My god, not even a storm needs to be used here. Everything gets taken out. Meanwhile, the corruptors, they got thinned out. Because they ran into the Archons earlier, so many corruptors went down. Just quickly checking, there are still 2 Vipers, but we're like, mate, you need to be like across the map. You need to be in the battlefield. Like, JimRising, oh my god. the problem is that the Vipers, by the time the Vipers get across the map, there's going to be no army for them to really support. Spines. True, ET, true. Aye. Another Zealot run by will get cleaned up, but JimRising, I mean, to be fair, both players are struggling right now. Like, they're both less than 150 supply. JimRising, he does move on forward with his lurkers. It looks like this forward-most base of Pacomike should fall. Overcharge is good, but it shouldn't be that good. It's buying enough time for the rest of Pacomike's army to meet up and defend. Wow, the Nexus does survive for now, but Pacomike? What? Where's he going? He just gives up on the base. He's like, which I don't know if this is the right. Again, that's like that was the most important base for Pacomike. Like, he's running out of resources elsewhere, but he just gives up on it. And instead, he wants the base to the top left, which isn't necessarily a wrong call. Oh my god, he actually gets a kill on that base as well. JimRising is not in position whatsoever to defend his top left, and it looks like finally this hatchery will fall. And if this hatchery falls, it does mean that Pacomike can take this as his own. At the same time, we do see JimRising pushing in on the right-hand side of the map. Recall is available, so as soon as Pacomike kills this base, he can just... There we go, recall is used. And he does show up just in time to save his base. All the lurkers are going to go down, and that's a hefty loss for Jim. What was that? 6-7 lurkers go down? Not a single one survives. And now Jim, he lost his base, he lost his lurkers. He still has a good corruptor count, and he does have 2 Vipers with this army, but I don't know about this, mate. To be fair, that insane Archon count that we saw earlier is non-existent. There's only 2 Archons remaining, so JimRising can take advantage of that. Would you see immediately 2 carriers do get abducted, and Jim can just keep going. Oh boy, there you go. Another abductor does go down, another carrier does fall. The Corruptors do take a lot of damage due to the Storms and the Archons. Oh my god, the Viper, please escape! Oh my god, somehow was able to dodge the Archon. Oh boy. Another Storm, and so many of these Corruptors are gonna fall. Oh, show me the Storm. Where are we? Where is it? Meanwhile, Pacomike is pushing across the map, and there is a bit of a ground army. We'll see where the Storms land. They land on the Corruptors and on the Hydras. 1 carrier does fall, but so do the Hydras. GG gets called. And Pacomike, he ties up the series 1-1. Oh my god. I need to catch up on the chat. A lot was going on. Hi, big fan. Oh, Ragnarokets. welcome. Sorry, I didn't miss you. I missed you. A solo cast, people said. Yeah. At the moment, I am solo casting. I was scheduled to cast with someone else, with Darking, but unfortunately something came up. But welcome, Ragnarokets. Hope you're enjoying the stream. Kuro cast when? Kuro is asleep right now. She is passed out. It is currently like 3 or 4 a.m. in Europe, so not the best time for Kuro. Sail the Golden Armada to victory. You know what, Fernando? Due to the energy that you were giving to Pacomike was able to close it out. We are going into that ace match, mate. Steel Mold, welcome. Good morning. Yeah, Steel Mold is of course from Israel. Steel Mold was live casting Sea Duckling Open last night on this channel. I have to go to bed because of work tomorrow, but I really hope Pacomike wins this. Good night, Fernando. Good night. Fernando in the chat is probably the biggest Pacomike fan. He did it for you, mate. I forgot to post the infographic. Oh, looks like the wrong lobby was made. Dastan, dame un besito. God damn it, Dastan. But welcome Goofa to the chat. Steel Pop, welcome back. It's always great to see you. But yes, the players are just remaking the lobby as the wrong map was made. And good morning, Steel Mod. Good morning. Good morning, Steak. I hope you're having a good time. Hope you're enjoying your day off. And I am going to message Vortex because I am not going to survive a solo cast for the lower semis in the finals. It's not happening. God damn it, Chaos Fate. Chaos joined the lobby. But we are slowly setting up. Cosmos is getting in here. Massive shout out to Cosmos. He is, of course, one of the best Brazilian casters out there. In the chat, if you prefer Portuguese, then give him some love. Hop on over to his channel, Cosmos SC2, as he's currently casting alongside me. And this is it. This is the ace match. We are tied up 1-1, and it's all gonna go down here on Death Aura. Besito Maxi, mi amor. Yeah. Everyone, don't forget, exclamation mark Funada Dastan whenever you can. This tradition here. And here we go. Spawning in the bottom right hand corner of Death Aura LE. This is it. This is the ace match between these two players. And here we have the best Protoss player in all of Latin America, the Mexican Protoss, doing it for his boy Fernantok in the chat, who's currently asleep right now. Can he do it without him? Oh my god, oh no. Oh god, please. Representing Alpha X, it is Pacomike. El Paquito himself. And spawning in the top left hand corner of Death Aura LE, we have the other Mexican player, the Mexican Zerg player, representing Timbers Esports, the streamer himself, one of the best dancers in Latino America. Some know him as Jimena, but he is JimRising. El Rancio himself, El Macaco. He goes by many names, but he is of course Jim, El Jimbo, and he's doing well today. He did struggle towards the end there. Again, he kind of tunnel visioned a little bit too much. At a certain point, JimRising was neglecting his creep spread. To be fair, Pacomike had observers all over the place and was really pressuring Jim all over the place with Zealot run-bys, even Archon run-bys and Immortal run-bys. It was crazy. It was so aggressive all over the place, and Jim just couldn't keep up. It's interesting to see because normally you see the opposite, right? Where the Zerg player is constantly harassing and attacking at multiple places at once. But instead, Pacomike took it upon himself to take that role. And yeah, he did so well there in game number 2, bringing it to that ace match. Again, I would say that Pacomike is the favorite player here. He has been on fire recently, winning events like Sentimiento Latino and other Copa Hyperion events, other Latin American weeklies. But but it's the ace match. It could go either way. And we have seen Pacomike slip up from time to time. Maybe tunnel vision a little bit too much, maybe take a little bit too long to transition into Sky Toss, maybe just not looking at the right moments, and you know, some Banelings can connect with High Templar. We've seen it all here. He's really, both players, they need to tighten up here in the ace match if they want to make it to the finals. Oh boy. Speaking of the finals, I did just message a good friend of mine to jump on and help me cast, so he will be joining me in the lower semis for the very first time on the CranKy Ducklings, actually. We've had a lot of firsts recently. Like, we recently had the Stan on to cast, we recently had Darking on to cast. You know, just doing whatever we can. For those wondering, the regular caster for an entire year was Yoda Slim. I would cast alongside Yoda Slim. He's a duckling in America, and we would cast Battle of the Americas, Sentimiento Latino, Copa Hyperion, pretty frequently, every single week, every single weekend for all of 2020. But in 2021, he does have a full-time job now. All good things must come to an end, and he just doesn't have the time to cast at the moment. I say at the moment because maybe in the future he'll jump back on, fingers crossed. But yeah, it's really sad. I know he misses it a lot as well. Like, we still keep in touch, and he's like, oh my god, like, without my StarCraft on the weekend, like, I don't know what to do with myself, and like, he's kind of dealing with a lot of real life stuff. He had to move houses, he's helping his family move houses and settle down as well. Like, he's got a lot going on IRL, and I do miss him greatly. And as a result, you know, we're testing things out. We're trying to find another consistent caster for these weekend North American and Latin American casts, which is why we've had some, you know, random people on every now and then, like Darking and the Stan, just jumping on whenever they can. Speaking of jumping on, we do of course have this game being underway, and for the first time this series, sorry for not mentioning it, Pacomike is going for double Stargate Void Ray. It is happening, and it makes sense. I imagine Romanticide was vetoed by JimRising. Romanticide is one of the more Protoss favored maps in the map pool, just like Death Aura. We've spoken about this quite a lot, but Death Aura, it is very easy to get up to 4 bases. It is very easy as a Protoss player to wall off and defend on 4 bases, and 4 bases is all you really need to get into Skytoss. Eventually, of course, you do want a 5th, but defending here until you have your carriers out, until you have your fleet beacon, that is key here for Pacomike. And unlike some of these other maps on Death Aura, I mean, he has the advantage, and JimRising is well aware of this. Unfortunately, he didn't have enough vetoes to get rid of this map. But we are here, and we do have this double Stargate. We do have the Void Rays going across the map, looking to try and deny one of these bases. It does get spotted by Ling, so Jim is aware of the Void Rays, and he is in position to protect his 4th. Nicely done by Jim. He does keep his 4th alive, and he even had a couple of I almost said mutas, a couple of queens in the main base, just in case Pacomike decides to dip into the main. So far so good by Jim. These Void Rays haven't found the damage that they want to find. Meanwhile, interesting decision here by Jim. He's actually going straight into a Spire. Finally, in the ace match, we see the Muta King do what he does best. And he's not just going for a Spire, he's still going for +1 range, and he's still going for a Hydroden. So if you recall, I was talking about this earlier. I was talking about how something that Jim used to do is he would go Spire into Mutas and then hard switch into Hydras. And the point of the Mutas is to counterattack, deal some damage, and force the Protoss player to stop carrier production and switch into Phoenixes. Oh my god, the base is gonna go down! No, Jim! No, you're doing so well! Just for a moment, he wasn't paying attention. I wasn't paying attention. He moved his queens over to the right-hand side, and Pacomike took that opportunity and just focused down the 4th base. Oh no. Feels bad, man. Feels bad. Pacomike, the Void Rays, they found the damage that they were looking for. Here come the mutas. Again, this isn't an overcommitment into mutas. He's only getting 11. He is still focusing on Hydras. Again, the idea is to kind of force your opponent to react to the mutas and maybe, ideally, overreact to the mutas. We'll see if this works though. Pacomike, he's gonna run into the mutas. He does spot them just barely, and because the Void Rays are here and because they intercept the mutas, they wanted to go across the map. They wanted to harass, but they are unable to. They stay at home. They force the Void Rays to recall, and now immediately we see cannons being thrown down. We see another Stargate being thrown down. We'll see if Pacomike takes the bait and switches into Phoenixes. So far, so good for Pacomike. He's already started on his carrier production. Meanwhile, the Lings are trying to hit the fourth base. The carriers are here to defend. At the same time, the mutas push into the third, but the Void Rays are there to meet them. And JimRising, he's pushed back on every front. Oh god, and this is disastrous, especially because he just lost his fourth. Like, he had to try and deal some damage. Interestingly, we do have a second Spire on the way, and he's committing to +1 range. So again, this makes sense because JimRising does eventually want to switch into Corruptors. You know, Corruptors are ideal against carriers, as we saw in the previous game. JimRising, he was sniping a lot of carriers. So he does eventually want to switch into them. He cannot neglect his upgrades, +1 flyer attack and +1 carapace for flyers. Meanwhile, the mutas, they dip in. They did deal some damage, but again, these mutas, they haven't really paid for themselves. 4 mutas have already gone down. These mutas here, they need to find something. They pick up an adept here and there. It's great and all, but he doesn't really force the reaction that he would have liked. Oh, I speak too soon. He's actually getting a decent amount of workers. Like 3 more probes go down. At the same, no, not again, not again. Jim, please. Oh god. Does he get it? Oh my god, he flinched. Pacomike, he pulled away for a second, and if he hadn't have done that, the hatchery would have fallen. The hatchery just barely stays alive with 24 HP. My god. That was almost disastrous once again. I didn't want to see it, but thankfully JimRising does hold on to his base. At the same time, he goes for a bit of a counterattack. Does run into a Protoss wall here though. Again, this is what I'm talking about. You can wall off here at the third. You can do the same at the fourth, to be honest. Oh god, and JimRising is trying to push on forward, but there are plenty of storms to meet his army. Meanwhile, we do see JimRising. His army is just melting to the Protoss of Pacomike. He's forced back with his Hydralisks. At the same time, Pacomike's famed Zealot run-by does catch 2 full energy queens. Oh no! And this is the lair! Oh my god, what the hell is the lair doing at the third base? It's under threat. At the same time, the Corruptors try and dive in on these carriers, but the Archons and the Storms force the Corruptors back. And JimRising, he's falling apart. He has Infestors. I saw them in production earlier. What are they really going to do here? Meanwhile, the Lings will clean up the Zealots, thankfully. But the Zealots of Pacomike here on the fourth base are going to crash in, and this hatchery will finally fall. You just need to sneeze on that. The hatchery does go down. The Corruptors, they dive in, and actually they're getting a decent amount of carriers. Another carrier does fall. 4 in total have fallen. Only 2 carriers remaining. But do you need carriers? Zealot Archon is all you need. Like, especially against Lings. All the Lings fell. The Zealot Archon, it's gonna end the game. GG. GG, well played, Pacomike, or JimRising. He thought he had to be concerned about the carriers, about the sky toss in the sky. In the air, the carriers, the Void Rays, mate, that didn't even matter. What he should have been worried about with the Zealots and the Archons. Because that is all Pacomike needed. GG, well played, Pacomike. He started off a little bit rocky, a little bit shaky, down in the series, but he does bring it back, and he does win. Advance on to the finals, 2-1 over JimRising.